找不到感觉了，就找 this lecture, most people, this lecture, nature,
This
the
lecture.
subject，对不对？好，
This lecture.
好，准备好。玉米有问题我会提醒你，不要紧张哈。
Most people do not realize that some banks literally make money by giving loans without having money on deposit.
不要着急，非常好。
Most people. This lecture is talking about something. This lecture. Most people do not realize that some banks literally make money by giving loans without having money on deposit.
money 再沉一点
Money.
对
Money.
对了，
Money.
回到开头，准备开始。Most people
Most people do not realize that some banks literally make money by giving loans without having money on deposit.
对了，非常好。
Your subject outlines are a good place to go to find information about which textbooks to buy. Your subject outlines are a good place to go to find information about which textbooks to buy. This lecture is talking about something. This lecture. Your subject outlines are a good place to go to find information about which textbooks to buy.
特别标准。
This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end. This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end. This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through. This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end. This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end.
很棒。
Two sisters were at a dinner party when the conversation turned to upbringing. Two sisters were at a dinner party when the conversation turned to upbringing. Two sisters. This lecture is talking about something. Two sisters were at a dinner party. Two sisters were at a dinner party when the conversation turned to upbringing. Nature offers no great splendor. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear dark night. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear dark night. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear dark night. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear dark night.
看音节，速度稳一点。
Not only did they have the best horse, they attracted the best musicians who tended to stay put. Not only did they have the best horse, they attracted the best musicians who tended to stay put. Not only did they have the best horse, they attracted the best musicians who attracted the best musicians. Not only did they have the best horse, they attracted the best musicians who tended to stay put. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that have the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that. Half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century.
整体声音都很好。
39.5% of California residents do not speak English in the home.
California residents do not speak English at home.
The tutorial rooms are located along the left-hand side.
The tutorial rooms are located on the side.
Let's see if the technology is going to cooperate for this presentation.
Let's see the technology.
She doesn't care about anything but what is honest and true.
She doesn't care about anything but what is true.
句子感。
Children are not allowed in tutorial rooms at any time.
Children are not allowed in the tutorial rooms.
In Europe, the political pressure is similar regarding globalization.
In Europe, the pressure is regarding globalization.
Politicians make much better decisions when they listen to public opinion.
Politicians make much better decisions when they listen to the public decisions.
句子感。
We have very little actual documentation of it.
We have very little documentation.
We've been doing research in that area for probably over 25 years.
We've been doing research for 25 years.
The media have had a great influence on people's beliefs and attitudes.
The people and attitude. 哎呀，三声。
我向前看。
The final exam will test material from all chapters covered in class this term.
The final exam will test in class this term. This graph gives information about barriers to visiting museums or art galleries. This graph gives information about barriers to visiting museums or art galleries. This graph gives information about barriers to visiting museums or art galleries and proportion of adults unable to visit more often, including lack of time, not available locally, transport problems, cost of entry, caregiver responsibilities, and lack of information about the event. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing lack of time, which is about 50%. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing cost of entry, which is about 10%. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned reasons, which is about. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict. Yeah.
因为等一等，看到那个时间没有？它显示 recording complete 已经超时了，所以超时了你在那儿说越紧张，其实那些东西都没有录进去，不用慌。然后考试的时候说着我就卡了怎么办？我就随便说一句，比如说我 according to a highest figure showing according to a picture, the graph is very interesting and useful. According to a lecture, the highest figure is showing A, which is B， 对不对？你可以加一句废话进去，或者说你随便准备一句话，就是应对我卡了的时候，我随便能说一句流利的话给它接上，不要停在那儿哈。然后呢，然后我再接着往后说，就是刚才哪句话卡了，我继续往那儿说，给自己一个缓冲，然后向前看，不要慌。
就是超时是我前面说的内容就 就没有了吗？还是说就
后面的内容没有了，超时40秒以后的内容它就不会再录入进去了。
就前面的还是有的，是这样是吧？
对对对，所以呢，
我忘了看时间了，就太关键是前面怎么一下子又说串了，然后就
说串的也没有关系。
对
，DI 讲成的 retail lecture 讲成 DI 都没有关系。模板它又没有内容分，它只是保证你的流利度的，对不对？
对。
所以你讲 lecture graph 有什么区别吗？没有区别。
对，一下子卡住的时候还在思考怎么转回去，然后刚才没转回去。
你就想想 DI 整体的节奏是怎样的？就像我们刚才讲 retail lecture， 你看 retail lecture 讲那么好，对不对？你就 the lecture is talking about something according to lecture highest figure lowest figure according to graph highest figure lowest figure in conclusion the graph is very interesting， 对不对？就整体的一个框架，然后你把会说的东西不会卡的东西套进去就可以了。如果哪儿卡了，哪个词儿我不顺了，扔了不要，去保证流利度和发音，然后向前看，保持好的心态，对吧？这就是在实际考试中出现了这样的问题。那你看我们现在模考了，那以后就不会有这个问题了呀，对不对？所以呢，你把你的注意力放在我遇到问题解决问题上，不要紧张，对不对？好，然后你继续。
This graph gives information about where international companies have their European headquarters, the number of This graph gives information about where international. This graph gives information about. This graph gives information about where international companies have their European headquarters and number of European headquarters, including UK, Germany, Switzerland, France, Netherlands, Ireland, Spain, and Denmark. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned $200 billion in UK. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing Denmark, which is about 10. According to the lecture, different items have different figures. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict in the future. 怎么回事啊？我
调整过来的就已经很好了，后面向前看，忘记继续。
明明熟悉的东西都能念成这样。
句子感和力度。
Income by age and gender in the UK. Median income protects, including gender, both female, male, and age. According to the graph, this graph gives information about. This graph gives information about income by age and gender in the UK and median income protects, including gender, both female, male, and age, from under 20 to 75 and over. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing 55 to 59, which is about 30,000. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing under 20, which is about 10,000. According to the lecture, different items have different figures. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict in the future.
再讲紧凑一点，词和词之间句子感要加强。
This graph gives information about This graph gives information about manufacturers, retailers, consumers, and recyclers. According to the graph, the highest figure. This graph gives information about manufacturers, retailers, consumers, and recyclers. According to the lecture, the highest figure is showing manufacturers, which is about retailers. According to the lecture, the lowest figure is showing consumers, which is about recyclers. According to the lecture, different items have different figures. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict in the future.
好，这个就比上一题讲的好。Retail lecture 重新记笔记。
Now, economists calculate, and it's a back-of-the-envelope calculation, that removing all immigration controls would double the size of the world economy. And even a small relaxation of immigration controls would lead to disproportionately big gains. Now, from an ethical point of view, it's hard to argue against a policy that would do so much to help people who are much poorer than ourselves. The famous RAND study reckons that the typical immigrant who arrives in the US ends up $20,000 a year better off. And it's not just the migrants themselves who gain, it's the countries that they come from. Already, the migrants working from poor countries, working in rich countries, send home around $200 billion a year through formal channels, and perhaps twice that through informal channels. And that compares to the mere $100 billion that Western governments give in aid. And those remittances, they're not wasted on weapons, they're not siphoned off into Swiss bank accounts, they go straight into the pockets of local people. They pay for food, they pay for clean medicine, clean water, they pay for medicines. They help keep kids in school. They help start up new businesses.
10秒准备时间。
This lecture is talking about the economic benefits of migration. According to the lecture, the speaker mentions somebody control economics. According to the lecture, the speaker mentions something hard to argue. According to the lecture, much poor people and $2,000 a year at all. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned they come from country. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned local people pay for food. In conclusion, the lecture is talking about economic benefits of migration.
Answer your question.
What is formed when snow melts?
Water, liquid, water.
声音稳一点。
Does mathematics or linguistics cover the study of the relationships between numbers?
No. Yes.
降调低沉。
What's the word for the fourth basic arithmetical operation? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and
Division, division. Over.
How many times does an isolated incident occur?
One time. Once.
What type of coastal building warns sailors of dangerous coasts?
Beacon, beacon.
How often is a quarterly journal published?
4.